Okay, hi everyone. Hello, and thank you all for joining us. We are here in the second session of our AI show series. Today, we are going to talk about GitHub Copilot developers' productivity. And my name is Moria, and together with me today, we have Mario, who will be moderating today's session, and Jordan, who is also part of my team at the Reactor. We are all going to be supporting this event today. I will pass it over to them soon. So Mario could also, he will also introduce himself soon, Jordan as well. So I'm from the Reactor team, and I just want to talk to you just for a bit about the Reactor and what do we do with the Reactor and about this series. For those of you who are new to this series and didn't join our first one, so we will start with that. Before that, feel free. I see already some people said hi from Jerusalem, from Poland. Feel free to say where you're from, say hi, drop a note in the comments so we can see where you are joining us from. It's always good to see people joining from around the globe. This is a really it was one thing that important for us in this series is to really have everyone from our global attendees. So feel free to share where you are from. So a bit about myself and the Reactor. The Reactor is basically a technical hub for developers. We are basically providing free skilling and opportunities for developers and the communities around different Microsoft technologies. We'll go to the next slide. Sorry about that. Yes. So we are. You can scan this. Yeah, you can scan the QR code now, and you can reach the Reactor website, and then check out the list of our upcoming events that we have. We have 12 locations, physical locations, when we have reactors around the world, but we actually provide learning online, so virtually, so you can join really from wherever you are in the world, and you can always there is pretty much every day a few events that you can join from. So check out our website. You can scan the QR code. We will put also a link in the chat soon, so you can also visit our website there. What you see now on the screen is a platform that we are using often at the Reactor called Microsoft Learn. Microsoft Learn is a free platform that Microsoft offers, where we have over 4,000 learning modules and learning path opportunities for you to really upskill and learn new skills and new content around Microsoft technology and products. So Microsoft Learn is often used in our events. You can scan this QR code, reach this platform, and the best thing about this platform, you can actually access it from home, free, on your own convenient time, and learn on your own pace from wherever you are in the world. You can actually complete a learning path, take an exam, and share your achievements on social media. And it's all being provided for free on this platform. So I highly recommend you to check it out if you haven't already, and if you're not familiar with Microsoft Learn. Today also we have a few modules around OpenAI that we are going to share just as recommendations. So we will share them also soon in the chat. Lastly, before we start, here we have on the screen the code of conduct of Microsoft Reactor. Please take a second to read it out. Basically, we really request you to be respectful to each other and welcoming, especially in the chat, since this is a virtual event. And this is something that highly important for us, and we are sharing it here. If you would like, we could also share a link to that in the chat, where you can access the code of conduct online. You can take a picture of the screen. Yes, that's pretty much it from my end. I want to pass it over now to Moshik, who is going to talk to you a bit about Azure AI. And then following Moshik's presentation, we will pass it over to Mario, who is going to kick off the session, the first sessions for today. So, sir, first of all, Moshik, over to you. And thanks, everyone. Enjoy the session.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for hosting me. It's very nice to be here. Moshik Shir, Azure Fast Track. I've been a Digital Native Center of Excellence Principal Program Manager. I receive a lot of questions from you around where's Azure AI versus OpenAI. And I would like just to ensure that you all understand where Azure OpenAI is set within the overall context. So you know that Microsoft is a platform services company, and we're seeing Azure OpenAI in the Azure machine learning. We're seeing it as application level, so we're going to embed the Azure OpenAI in each one of the applications. As you can see here, the Microsoft 365, the Microsoft Dynamics 365, the partner solutions as well. It could be on the application platform, as you heard, the Copilot that is going to be embedded in the Power BI and also Power Apps and Power Automate and others. There's going to be a scenario-based services and also AI models that are part of the cognitive services. So think of it from business users and also developers lenses as well. Let's flip to the next slide. So what's going to be the main areas that I would like to ensure that you keep in mind? So when we look at OpenAI versus Azure OpenAI, the Azure OpenAI co-develops the APIs with OpenAI, ensuring compatibility and smooth transition from one to another. With Azure OpenAI, customers get the security capabilities, which is very important to many of our enterprise and SMB customers of Microsoft Azure, while running in the same models of OpenAI. And Azure OpenAI also offers private networking and regional availability, which is also very key. So in the next slide, you can see actually a very good summary of those capabilities in the next slide, that you could see a very good summary of where Azure OpenAI versus OpenAI give services when it comes to security and reliability, compliance, authorization, role-based security. We have it in the Azure OpenAI when it comes to billing, dedicated resources, as well as transaction-based as well. It's another differentiator. And another element is the safety system and compliance that enables us to allow and block lists and to have sensitive word classifiers. So in the next slide, I would like just to ensure that you could have the opportunity to join our survey. So this is a survey that we're running across the world to help us really shape the future of the Azure OpenAI services. Please dedicate just 2 minutes for it with a few simple questions by scanning the code, and it could give us more sense about your wishes and the areas that we need to focus in the future. Thank you very much. Sure.
So now it's time. Thank you for all for Moria and also to you for the introduction to it. Now we are going to the sessions directly, and we prepared the 3 sessions for you with real great experts. We will start with kind of an introduction to the GitHub Copilot and also ChatGPT technologies. The session will be driven by Batel and Marina. Batel is a developer advocate at JFrog, and Marina is our senior cloud solution architect from Microsoft. Then the sessions, each session will have around 30 minutes. So please stay with us for all of the sessions and also the questions after and answer after the sessions. After the introduction to the GitHub Copilot and ChatGPT, we will switch to AR Zilberman, the Chief Product Officer and co-founder of Datri. The AR will show you how to work with prompting and things related to GitHub Copilot, how to work as a developer with this tool in a little bit more deeper session than on the first one. And at the end, we have Rory as our cloud advocate from Microsoft, who will show you the semantic kernel, the future of AI-powered applications, how to work, how to help you using the AI technologies in your applications, in your development. So as you will see, the setup of today's session is like everything around how to be a better developer, how to be more productive developer, and how to use those AI-related tools to build the apps of the future. So on the next slide, you will see that just agenda for this. And as I mentioned, all of the sessions will be like 30-minute sessions. Also, we will have, if after each session, we will have like, few questions if it will be possible to answer by our speakers. Then also, if you would like to stay with us at the end, we will also have some time for Q&A. So let me then switch to Batel and to Marina for the first session on the level up with GitHub Copilot and ChatGPT.
Awesome. So thank you very much, Mario. I can't see Marina yet. Marina, are you here?
Hi, I'm here. Do you hear me?
Amazing. Yes, we can hear you.
Thank
So
you.
first of all, thank you. Thanks everybody. Thank you for joining this session. So today we're going to talk about level up your CI/CD with GitHub Copilot and ChatGPT, and let's see how we can do that. So I guess most of you already familiar with this guy here in the picture. So I would like to hear more from you in the comments and chat, and let's see, what do you think? Do you think it's really our enemy? AI is really our enemy, or should it will be our best friend as developers? So let me see what do you think on your comments. But today we're going to show you why developers should love AI, for our opinion, and how it can improve our code and skills. So let's start. So a little bit about myself. My name is Batel Zor, and I'm a developer advocate at JFrog. Before that, I was part of the support team and the high-touch solution team. Even before that, I was an embedded developer in the army. And I have today two amazing doggies that name Benjos and Sol, and a little kiddo named Nathan. And if you want to get hold of me later, you can find me on LinkedIn or just send me a message. And I'm really happy to help and really appreciate that you are joining today. And my amazing, amazing colleague Marina will introduce herself.
Yes. So, good evening, good morning, good evening to everyone. And yes, I'm very excited to be here and thank you for hosting me. And briefly about myself, I'm Marina. I'm cloud solution architect in Microsoft. Today I'm working with the startups in ISV companies, and I'm helping them to develop and to run their platforms on Azure cloud. My main knowledge and specialization it's Azure infrastructure, cloud native services, and the DevOps processes. And as you can see on this slide, my main hobby is watching superheroes movies with my kids. Next slide.
Yeah, she rocked them all. So, what is AI?
Yes, so let's start. And we decided to start with a quick definition of AI, artificial intelligence. And I'm sure you can find many definitions of AI on internet, and one of them from Wikipedia. You can see here on the slide. For my opinion, it's not interesting. So I decided to ask ChatGPT what is AI, and his answer was AI is like having a super smart robot assistant that can do things that would normally require a human brain, like predicting the future, finding a needle in the haystack, or playing chess like a grandmaster. So I like this definition, and why? Especially because of super smart assistant. And other reason, because we are going to talk today about super smart assistants for developers and see how can they can help developers to work more efficiently. So now let's talk a bit about what is generative AI. Generative AI enables users to generate a new original content based on different inputs. And inputs can be text, images, sounds, animations, 3D models. And for sure, in the last few months, everyone here already heard about OpenAI company and the partnership between OpenAI and Microsoft. So OpenAI is an AI company specializing in developing generative AI models, like you can see here on the slide, GPT-3 or GPT-4, the new version that was announced at the end of March. These models generate text based on input in natural language that we call prompt. And actually, GPT is multimodality model, which means it can get text and image as input and produce a text as output. The other model, Codex, can generate a code, What is special for this model? This model was trained on massive amount of data and code as well from a public repos. Other very interesting model, it's DALI 2, produces images, and the last model, it's a JetGPT, based on GPT 3.5, and Batel will explain more about this model. But in general, this model can manage a conversation. Okay, next slide. And now let's see what is Copilot, okay? And what does Copilot do? First of all, Copilot is a joint project of GitHub and OpenAI. According to the GitHub definition, Copilot is AI pair programmer or super smart assistant. And just to highlight this point, it's Copilot or pair programmer and not autopilot yet, which means developer assistant that helps in writing code and doesn't write instead of developer. So let's see now, what does it mean helping writing code? Copilot synthesizes lines of code or entire functions in real time based on the context the developer provides. On the next slide, I will explain what exactly context is. So Copilot supports different programming languages and frameworks. And behind the scenes, Copilot fully powered by OpenAI codex model, which translates natural language prompts into coding suggestions. And we're already on this slide. And Copilot, actually, now I will explain how does it work. And Copilot is installed as a plugin in your IDE. Supported IDE today, it's a Visual Studio Code, Microsoft Visual Studio, JetBrains, and it looks or analyzes the context in the file you're editing, as well as the related or open files in your IDE. The context is sent to a Copilot, which then generates a code suggestion. And once the suggestion has been made, the context will be deleted right after. So the data is shared in so-called ephemeral way. It's shared just long enough for Copilot to provide a suggestion. Just to mention here, there is a Copilot for business and the individual use. Copilot for business does not retain any telemetry or code snippets data. Individual users can choose whether your code snippets are collected and retained by GitHub. And you as a developers can do it by configuring user settings. GitHub doesn't use that code to put back in the data model for internal trading, for sure. And the other point I want to mention here, it's a filtering out security vulnerabilities with an AI-based system. So for my opinion, it's most important recent improvement in Copilot because security vulnerabilities that can come with code suggestions is the main concern of many customers who is considering to use a Copilot. So GitHub launched AI-based vulnerability prevention system, which means insecure coding patterns are blocked and replaced by alternative suggestions. So the new model target the most common vulnerabilities like hard-coded credentials, SQL injection, and pass injections. Batel, to you.
I'm on it. Yeah. So let's this video.
And I also wanted to show you Copilot Labs. Okay, what is Copilot Labs? It's experimental project. Can you start video? Okay, now it's okay. So Copilot Labs is experimental project or where you can experiment with the new future features. And it's actually a Visual Studio Code extension or sidebar that contains features like a code explanation, code translation, Copilot brushes, and the test generation. Let's see each of them. So code explanation, this feature lets you highlight a block of code and ask Copilot to explain in a plain language the code. The code translation enables the highlight again to highlight a code and translate it to another programming language. ID brushes is more cool feature. Okay, it's using brushes you can do different actions, and one of them is identify and fix bugs in your code. And the last one, test generation. So actually, the ability to generate a code for testing your code.
Yeah, I saw that and it's really, really cool. So let's get back for ChatGPT for a minute. All right. So first of all, how ChatGPT was trained. So it was trained on massive amount of data with a lot of information from the internet, and as you can see later, it's also got a human style of responding. Right today, you are already using ChatGPT. You know how it's work, and it sounds like kind of a real human sometimes, right? So let's talk a bit about SDLC and what is software development lifecycle. The R&D team on GitHub and GitHub Next has been striving to expand beyond the editor and transform GitHub Copilot into readily available AI assistants. So as you can see here, we have a huge SDLC with all the planning and all the phases that we're going to see today. And let's take it and make it simple. Let's move one by one and see how AI tools can help us in this case. So, first of all, planning and analysis, right? Whenever we're just thinking about our new software, we need to define the project scope, setting objective and goals, create a project plan and timeline. We need to kind of plan what we're going to do and how it's going to look. So, I started with ChatGPT and just asked it if it can help me with the planning phase. So I got a really nice response, right? It tells me that it's an AI tool and it can help me with the project scope, with the research planning. I basically have kind of everything right here, right? I know what I need. I can ask the ChatGPT every time I need something, and maybe it can help me. So cool. First step was pretty cool. It went pretty well. And now let's talk a bit about the design, right? The second step is the design. We need to understand what we're going to do in this case, how it will look like. We need some feedback, validation, optimization, and even documentation sometime, right? We need to make sure that we are prepared with something that it's pretty realistic. So again, I just started and asked ChatGPT what I can do. I want to create my mobile application and I want to get some architectural design. So let's see what it suggests me. So first of all, of course, the user interface is pretty important, and it's this is how we want to generate it as landscape, animal, abstract patterns, and what kind of how it will gonna look like. Now the front end, which is also pretty cool, since it's a mobile app, it will suggest me to to work with React Native or Flutter. With Flutter, which is pretty new language, it's pretty cool. Like it seems like it's really updated, right? It knows everything. Then for the backend, he told me that I may use some AI algorithms and I want it to be very, very RESTful and to support it. Same for machine learning models and the infrastructure, which is pretty cool because we want to make sure that we are in the cloud and where everything is running on SaaS and can work every time and everything we need here. So it's also suggests me some cloud infrastructure. The database is super important, and of course we can't forget security. So we need to make sure that our application is secure, and it looks pretty cool, right? We have everything we need. We can just ask ChatGPT and get whatever we want. So as Marina mentioned, Copilot is similar to ChatGPT and sometimes even better. But again, I try to ask ChatGPT about the implementation. Right. In the implementation phase, I need to generate my code, do some bug detection and fixing. I need kind of an alpha version, right? It should be pretty ready in this phase. So I asked ChatGPT just to provide me some Node.js application, right? So it was pretty simple. Here is my application. I copy and paste it. In most of the cases, it worked, but sometimes it's not really working well, right? Maybe there is some bug fixes that we need to change there and so on. So I did the same with Copilot, and it's amazing. First of all, it's converted the comments to code. I have some autofill stuff whenever I write my code. I don't need to do by hours, days, weeks. It was super easy and super straightforward to work with it. I just get whatever I need when I just started to write my code, and I saw some alternative which was very, very useful and very, very powerful in that case. So testing and implementation, right? We need to make sure that we are secure, that we test everything we need here. So in this phase, the software product is tested, and we want to ensure that we meet the requirements and the specification, including the functionality, usability, performance, and security. So let's try to create this crazy thing here and make it simple. So we are starting with the IDE. Of course, we can use VS Code, any IDE. We need to make sure that we don't have any malicious code and malicious package. So we'll start with our Git commit, and Copilot will help us. Will help us with the documentation, to make sure that I'm not using any security vulnerabilities. I'm not having any secrets that are just exposed there. And we can also source the repo vulnerabilities, and we can do that later on with Artifactory and the JFrog platform. So once I'm building my pipeline, I already ready. I'm starting my build. I can do that with GitHub Actions, with Azure pipelines, or any CI/CD that you want, and combine everything into one place, which is really, really cool. So in that phase, I can use an Artifactory, which is binary repository manager, to make sure that I'm taking my packages from a specific repository, to make sure that I don't have any packages that are not secure, or I can just create some blocking mechanism or anything I need according to our organization needs. And I can check that there is no known vulnerabilities. And of course, I would like to automate everything, and using distribution pipeline with GitHub Actions, so I can distribute it immediately, create some IAC and vulnerabilities to make sure that if I'm using Terraform and so on, I have everything in one place, and I can just free to test and implement my software. I'm ready, right? I checked everything. I'm almost there. Let's move on to our last step here, which is the deployment. So there are a lot of platforms today that can help us with the distribution. We can combine everything we want, from the beginning to the distribution itself. This is just one way to do that. But of course, here, instead of pipelines, I can use GitHub Actions, for example, to create my CI/CD. Here, I probably would like to use any binary repository manager to have all of my packages, to make sure that I'm secure. I don't have any security vulnerabilities. So for here too, we can use few different products to make sure that we are secure. We are scanning our binaries. We won't have any security vulnerability. And of course, even from here, right, we will add Copilot to make sure that everything is secure from the beginning, that we have some cool suggestions, that we're ready for our SDLC, and we can create our software quicker, better, more secure. And then we can distribute it, or with different products like distribution and JFrog Connect, to make sure that it's distributed to our IoT devices, to our services, and everything we want. So let's talk a bit about maintenance.
So the final stage, we are at the final stage, okay? So the final stage of software development lifecycle is the maintenance. And usually this stage includes tasks like bug fixing, performance improvement, adding new features, software upgrades, code refactoring. And let's see how Copilot or ChatGPT can provide support for developers during the maintenance stage. Let's take, for example, bug identification and tracking. You can use ChatGPT for organize and track reported bugs, categorize them, for example, based on severity, on priority, and then Copilot or ChatGPT can suggest possible solutions and even fix them. Or performance optimization or improvement. By looking at the code, ChatGPT can suggest places where there might be opportunities for performance improvements. Other example is a code review. Can you go back?
Sure.
ChatGPT can assist in reviewing code to identify potential problems and, again, improvements. And the code explanation, I love this one, for example. Think about the situation where the developer who previously has developed the code and left the company or startup, and the new developer needs to maintain it. Copilot can explain in natural language the highlighted code and save time for the developer. And the last one, documentation. Of course, ChatGPT can help create and maintain user manuals, technical documentation. And then now let's go to the next slide, Patel. Yes, and here we can see now the full software development cycle. As you can see, now we have assistant almost at every stage. And for my opinion, this is going to fundamentally change developer work and improve productivity and the efficiency. As you already understand, Copilot or ChatGPT or other, by the way, open sources tools can do a lot of tasks, simplifying complex work or eliminating repetitive tasks across all stages of software development lifecycle. So you can see some of them GitHub Copilot can do, some of them ChatGPT, or you can choose what to use, Copilot or ChatGPT. And the developers now can concentrate more or concentrate all their creative energy on the bigger picture or innovation.
So let's start to summarize it a bit, right? Who can do that better, right? I
Yes.
love to ask you. So what we should use, the ChatGPT or Copilot? So I just asked ChatGPT, as you can see here, and it's a great answer, but I really love the end. Both ChatGPT and Copilot are very powerful tool that can assist developer in different ways. Both can provide significant value in helping developers become more productive and write better code. And I love this answer, especially when we have great power comes great responsibility. Yeah, I have to do that, Marina. You talked about heroes, so of course, Batman or Superman, which one you prefer? So what not to do, right? Let's make it quick because we don't have too much time. So Marina,
Yes.
the stage is
Yeah.
yours.
What not to do. So very important to understand what not to do, what is recommended or best practices when using such tools. And first of all, do not rely completely on ChatGPT when asking complex coding questions. As an AI, ChatGPT has been trained on a wide variety of data and it can help with many general programming questions. However, when it comes to highly specific coding queries, the model may not always provide completely accurate or best practices solution. The next one, do not use ChatGPT as a replacement for software engineers. So, and this question we are hearing all the time now, and this question in the titles, if such tools will replace developers. So as I mentioned at the beginning of our session, at least for now, it's Copilot and not Autopilot yet. While ChatGPT can generate code snippets and provide general programming advice, it lacks critical thinking or problem-solving skills of a professional software engineer. A human engineer can understand your project's unique needs or collaborate with a team, troubleshoot unexpected issues. So the next one, do not expect to get the answer you are looking for from the first question. So you may need to rephrase or provide additional context to get the information you are looking for. It's also important to know that the model generates responses based on patterns and it has learned and does not have any beliefs or intentions. And the last one, do not use ChatGPT to generate code without doing or testing it. So I believe it's clear for all of us that you should not use the generated code as is, especially in production environment. And all code well generated by AI or written by humans should be reviewed for accuracy, efficiency, security. And you have to run tests to ensure it behaves expected in all different scenarios.
I agree. So let's just summary everything so we can work and solve problems area where you're not an expert, right? That's one of the powerful powers that we have with ChatGPT and Copilot, and we can get result with Copilot much faster. We can focus on the higher level problems and leave the low level details to the machine, right? If it's a new language that I just learned or something that I just started to work with, I can see everything in front of me and I don't need to deep dive for every specific way or function that is working and improve developer productivity. You can see the result here. It's amazing. 55% faster coding, more than a million developers using it, with 46% of code written, and a lot of businesses that love to use it. And it's very, very fulfilled. People like it, and I really, I've tried it, and I love it. I love to work with Copilot. It's very easy, and I think it's the time for questions, right, Maria?
Yes, it is exactly. We have like a tons of questions. Let me try to put some of them on the screen. Like the first question, very open, but anyhow, will ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot displace coders and programmers? And there were a few questions around very similar to that. If you
So
can
it's
give your perspective on it.
So I believe it's never really replaced the coders and and developers and programmers. I think it's something that still needs some human insightful, and it can be very, very, very helpful. But I think it's never will replace it. I think it's just a kind of a tool that will help us. And what do you think, Marina?
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. And as I already mentioned, right now it's Copilot, not autopilot. It's not going to replace completely developers, but developers can maybe focus on other tasks, on innovation, but to take such tools and to as assistance.
Thanks for that. And I know that sometimes it's not easy to answer this type of the questions. Another quite specific. How do we manage to lower the wrong answers which come from the Chat GPT?
All right. So usually I'll start and try to test the answer that I'm getting with ChatGPT. If it's something that's related to coding, I'll probably start to run it and see if it's really working or not. And then I'll start to search more and more alternative and see how I can fix it.
Just to add here, maybe you need to iterate on the same question, on the same prompt, and to improve your prompt and to explain to ChatGPT better what you are looking for, and then you will get better answer.
Yes, exactly, because it's
The another
improving.
question, very like specific. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Like another question, quite very specific. I see you like give the power to the people and they want to try it. And there is a question: what about the license for Copilot? How to probably get it?
Mario, maybe can you can answer this question better?
Sure, I can. Yeah, I can. So to get the Copilot working, you have like two options. There are Copilot for individuals, and there is also Copilot for the businesses. For the Copilot for individuals, it's quite easy. Go to the GitHub website and just sign up for it, and it costs like $10 per month. And for the GitHub for businesses, it's like $90 per month. It has more enterprise type of the features. For that, probably it's good to reach out to your Microsoft representatives. If you don't know who to reach out, you can come to me and I will try to help.
Awesome.
Sure. We have like maybe 2 more minutes, so let me try to see some another question. There's a question: if we already have Copilot X, does Copilot Labs adds additional features?
Regarding the Copilot X, actually it was announced by GitHub, as I know, and the X stands for different features, and you need to register for a waiting list now.
Yes, exactly. So the Copilot X is like additional set of the features that will be available in the future. Right now, what my suggestion is to try the Copilot as itself, and then also the labs features for you. Lots of questions in the meantime. Maybe this question. So how can someone get an entry-level software job when Copilot and ChatGPT are thriving?
Wow, that sounds scary, but no, it's not that scary, right? Because whenever you're going to a job interview, it's not only your coding skill, it's also how are you as a human, and how you're, if you're, you know, how to learn a new things and how quickly you can do that. And it's not only just your coding skills, for my opinion.
I agree. Yes.
Sure. So we need to like finish this kind of a set of the sessions. We have many more. Probably we'll take them, for us to the end of the session, to be, maybe with more time. Now we need to switch to second session. So we will just probably see on the screen in a moment AR for this session on prompt engineering with GitHub Copilot. AR, are you with us? Yes,
Hi
I can
everyone.
see you, so it's great. So the stage is yours. I'm not, giving too much. If you want to do any of the introductions, please do. I will be looking also for the questions from your side, from the audience side to you. I will try to also check some of them and ask you at the end. So please also be active in the comments. And the stage is yours.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So I will say that also there's an option to get Copilot free for open source project maintainers. So I don't know if people are familiar with that, but actually this is also possible. So let me start my session. Here we go. So can everyone see my screen? Yeah, we're all set? Yeah, we're all set. Cool. So let me start by introducing myself. So my name is Eyal. I'm leading the product at the tree. By the way, it's also an open source project, and therefore I have a license and I'm using GitHub Copilot for almost a year now. I really like it. It's really good tool. I'm also a GitHub star since 2022, which means I get the early access for different features, and this is why I'm also using it for so long. I'm also the organizer of the biggest GitHub user group in the world, which is here in Tel Aviv. We have more than 3,000 members. And also, I'm open source maintainer, so we talked about it. I'm a podcaster, and I really love goats. So if you see different goats in my slides, you can understand why it's like that. Okay, so I know there's the amazing session by Batel and Maria about GitHub Copilot, and I try not to repeat the same things that they said about Copilot, but I just want to make sure that people that catching this session will not miss about what exactly we're going to talk about it. And also promise to people that already using GitHub Copilot that this is not only a beginner session, but it's also suited to beginners. Okay, so also from Wikipedia, what is GitHub Copilot? So GitHub Copilot is a cloud-based AI tool that assists users from the IDE by auto-completing code. And I will emphasize, and I will say it again, it's assisting users. And the way that it's working, so in the previous session we already talked about it, basically there's the open source projects that exist on GitHub, and this is how they train the model. And you have GitHub Copilot that interact with the users through the IDE. So GitHub Copilot is basically your AI pair programmer. GitHub Copilot is not here to replace us. It's not here to take our job. It's here to help us, to work together with us. And because it's want to work with us, we need to understand how we can actually interact with it. What is the best way to actually get the results that we want? So this concept is what we call prompt engineering. So prompt engineering is the practice of giving an AI model, in this case it's Copilot, the right instructions, and it's really important about the right instructions to produce the results that you expect. And this is exactly what we're going to cover. So here's an example. When you talk with Alexa, you're saying something like, Alexa, play morning playlists. So your voice is the prompt engineering that you are using to interact with this AI. And you want to make sure that you're giving it the right instructions in order for it to perform the right actions. So the same goes with Copilot. We need to interact with it. And the way that we interact is with code comments. So each language have its own way to write code comments. And here's an example. You just write the comment and Copilot will autocomplete what you need. So sounds really simple. So what's the catch? And I really love simple examples, so I will show you a simple example. Where's the catch? So here's the definition of what is a sandwich. An item of food consists of two pieces of bread with meat, cheese, or other filling between them. So basically, this is also a sandwich, right? It's applied to this definition, so it's a legit sandwich. But we all know that this is not the kind of sandwich that you want. This is the kind of sandwich that we want. And the same goes with Copilot. You need to understand what are the best practices in order to get the right code. And this is what we're going to discuss, and this is what we're going to show. Okay, so now that we understand what we're going to cover, I just want to make sure that you don't need to be scared that I'm going to show examples in Python. So you don't need to be familiar with Python. I'm using it only because I think it's a really readable language. And I'm also going to talk about stuff like API, regex, and cron, and such and stuff like that. So don't worry, no prerequisites about knowing those stuff. I will make sure that those examples will be relevant for everyone. Okay, so now that we understand, we can get started. So first best practice, high-level description with detailed instructions. And I'll show you what I mean. So I can write something like get user data from API. This is the comment in Python, and this will be the prompt that I'm passing to the AI, which is Copilot, and this is what Copilot completed for me. So as you can see, it's pretty generic. I just said I want to get data from an API, and it's auto-completing something that is related to COVID. So it's look kind of random, but if you think about it, because it was trained on data set that is open source, a lot of people wrote open source projects that are related to get COVID data in the last 2 years, which means this is a really popular results when you are asking for a random API. So this is why I got something that is related to COVID, although it's not maybe related to what I'm looking to get from Copilot. So this is example of something that is not performed right. So let's see how we can tweak that to get something that is suited to what we need. So we can say something like get user data from API, but then I need to explain what is the API and what I expect to get from the user. And once I give this as details in my prompt, GitHub Copilot is able to produce something that is more similar to what I expect. Make sense? Cool. So let's move to the other example. You should always provide specific details. So again, here's the prompt, here's the comment, right? A unit test for something in the module something. It's not really important, the names. And it's taking a package that is called unit test and it's producing this code. But what happening if I'm not using the framework that is called unit test and I'm using a different framework that is called PyTest? For me, this code is irrelevant. Therefore, the best practice is actually be explicit about what we want Copilot to use. So I will say use PyTest to produce a unit test. And once I will set that, it will produce the code that I expect. It's super cool that it's actually writing unit test for us, which I think is one of the annoying things that you can do as a developer. Okay, and let's see the other example. So let's say I want to write a function to validate a cron expression from a user input by using a regex. So the best practice here is always to give examples. And this is a tricky one, so it will take us a little bit time to actually explain what we're going to do here. So let's stop for a second because I used a lot of terms that can be scary like regex and cron. So what is regular expression for those that are not familiar with that? Regular expression, it's basically a pattern that we are using in order to match text. And cron, basically, it's a job scheduler pattern for computers. You don't really need to understand the concept, but it looks something like that. 5-4, something, 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 something. And the computer can read it and understand that it needs to operate software or an app at 4 or 5 on Sunday. There's also a pattern for cron, which is called add weekly, add daily, and it can tell the computer to work at a specific hour. It's not really important how it's work. And it's possible to use regex to actually validate the cron pattern itself. So again, I don't want you to get scared. You don't need to understand regex. It's only for the demonstration. So let's go back to our example. So I need to write a function to validate cron expression. And if I'm doing that, I'm getting this piece of code that is produced by Copilot. And I try to run it. But I would do something interesting. I would give it the input at weekly. And at weekly it's not actually a standard in cron. It's not always supported. It's sometimes supported by cron validators. So when I'm passing it to the function that was written by Copilot, it's actually returning none, which means it's not recognized, because if it was recognized as a valid one, it will return true, as you can see in the code. And the question is, why it's doing that? Because it is a valid cron expression. And the reason is because, like I said, it's not a common one. So therefore, I can take my code or my comment, my prompt, and I should add something like the regex should also catch cron patterns like daily, weekly, and so on. You can see that I'm not listing all the possible options. I'm only giving him the kind of expression that I want him to catch. So now it's fixed the regex and produced a new code. And if I rerun this code and I will give it the input at weekly, it's actually returned true, because now the regex is fixed. And this is why it's also important to give it examples when you are asking for pieces of code. So those are the three main best practices, but there are some other tips that I want to cover together with you. The first one, like we said, it was trained on open source project. Therefore, it produced better results for common languages. Right now, it's Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, Ruby, Go, C#, and C++. It will work with other languages, but it will work better with those languages. Again, it's because the size of the dataset that it was trained with. It is always important to be explicit and not implicit, and I will show what I mean. So an implicit example will be telling GitHub Copilot, don't use package something. An explicit example will be use package something. So it's always better to be explicit and tell him exactly what you want in order to get the right results. The next thing, use consistent naming convention for your variables. So don't mix camel case together with snake case and stuff like that, because A, it's not the best practice because each language have its own standard, and B, it's also not helping you produce the code that you want when you use a Copilot, because you don't know which one you want to use. The last one, and it's really interesting because I actually found out about it only lately, is that Copilot is not only reading the code in your document, it's actually also reading all the code in other open tabs in your IDE. So if you will make sure that you have only the relevant code in the different tabs, it will look in those tabs and it will be able to produce better code that is rely on different files in your code base. And the most important tip, always be polite. Write, please write something, or I would like to write a function and not I want to write a function. Why is that important? Because maybe one day they will take over the world and you want to make sure that you are on the nice side. I'm just kidding. Don't worry, there's time, they're not going to kill us. But although GitHub Copilot is awesome, it should not replace, and I repeat, it should not replace code review, running integration test, manually testing your code to make sure it's working, checking for security issues, or any other coding practices. Those should still be done. Okay, and a look into the future. So we talked about a little bit in the last session about Copilot 6, and a lot of people are asking what exactly is Copilot X. So Copilot X is a generic name for something that is going to contain different features. So it will be something that is called Copilot for Docs, which is basically an option to write to take. So right now it's taking comments and it's providing code. So it will be the opposite. It will take code and it will provide the documentation. It will be Copilot for pull request. It will help you make pull request reviews. There will be Copilot chat, which is really similar to Chat GPT. Copilot for CLI. You don't need to remember or know all your CLI arguments. It will be help you use the right arguments when you're using the CLI. And there will be Copilot voice, which is basically instead of writing comments, you can just speak and generate code, which is super cool. So those are the different features that will be released. They're still not general available, but you can sign up for the preview. So that's all. If you want to find me, you can find me on GitHub, or you can send me an email if you have any questions, or add me on LinkedIn. I'm going to publish those slides on my LinkedIn profile, so if you want to get a copy, feel free. Thank you.
Thank you, AR. Great session and great kind of a showing what it's needed to be done. Also, not only just writing something to those co-pilots. So yeah, there was a question about the sharing your podcast and social media. So thanks for having this already. And we have I think 1, 2, 3, about 5 questions about a few things that you were also showing. One of the things is that does Copilot remember my questions between session of coding?
Remember so it's have a history, but so it's not like ChatGPT. So there is history,
Yeah.
but it's you don't really. It's not relying on that because you
Yes.
don't really interact with it with chat like you do with ChatGPT. So it's not really relevant.
Yeah, exactly. The next question is, have you used ChatGPT or Copilot with production-ready products? They are analyzing resources
of
in your
course.
servers, etc.
So I'm using more Copilot for coding because again, ChatGPT. So my take on that, ChatGPT is more a general purpose engine, I would call it, and Copilot was trained and is more focused on coding. So I actually find it more useful on my day-to-day task to use Copilot. So I'm using it with production tasks, but again, it's not like I'm covering by just writing a comments and shipping it to production. There's still integration tests. I'm still doing manual testing stuff. I'm still doing all those processes, but it's actually accelerating my development because it's helping me write code better and faster, for sure.
The third question is so you're basically writing code using prompts. Are we able to build entire application this way, or is this mainly as a co-pilot too? I know in reality.
Yeah, you can do it, but the trick is that if you are a beginner and you're not familiar at all with code, so the cron example is a really good example because I was familiar with cron and I knew there's this kind of cron expression that is called weekly daily. I knew that this is something that is missing from the regex.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can be a beginner and write entire application from scratch with something that wasn't possible before that. You still need to have some knowledge about what you want and how it should be done. So again, this is why it's not going to replace us. It's only here to help us.
Yeah. Also, one thing that maybe you could try to watch is I saw on the YouTube the session from Thomas Domke, which is the CEO of GitHub. He was in the past the developer, but right now he was on the stage. I think it was the Web Summit conference, and he was at the stage. And for the 15 minutes, he was building a snake game. You remember probably from the old times on the phone. So he was building the snake game directly, from with the GitHub Copilot. And he was showing how it was built, also getting the information about the logic of the game, etc. I recommend you to watch this. So sometimes it's possible to build the entire application, but also, as I mentioned, there are still things to do.
And it is possible, but you need to still understand how you need to design an application. And because you have this knowledge, I need to ask for a get, I need to ask for a put, stuff like that. You can just say, write an application and it will be auto-magically generate an application.
Yeah. So the next is a little bit more technical question, like does it know Python libraries like PyTorch or FastAI?
So again, it comes to how much popular is this library. If it's a popular library, so it exists a lot in the open source community, so it was trained on that, so it produced good code. If it's not that popular, so the code will be less good. Again, it's
Yeah.
the data set.
Sure. I think we have time for maybe one more question. So, how can GitHub Copilot help in writing a full feature that needs code in multiple places on the repo, or even in multiple repos? Is that even possible?
Yeah, so like I said, it's actually, if you open all those pieces in neighbor tabs, it will actually consider all the code from different repositories, and it will help you produce code that is relevant for across different repositories. Just make sure that you open all the relevant pieces of code in the same ID.
Sure. I think this comment could be a good ending of the question session, as we need to switch to Rory in a moment. So thanks for the session. Thanks for everything, and also as we were saying, we are somewhere in the internet. Please reach out to us. Even if I saw that someone wasn't able to find AR on the LinkedIn, probably we'll share this at the end. The
I
information
will give
about
you a
it.
link right now. Don't worry.
Yeah, sure. Please put in the chat maybe. Okay, so now we are switching to Rory for the last session of today. This time it will be on the semantic kernel and how to use also once again the AI things in the space of programming. So Rory, welcome on the session, and I'm giving floors to you. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And I'm excited to actually speak on a tooling that takes advantage of a lot of the concepts that we mentioned today. So when you see this, a lot of the questions that you had around how can I build an end-to-end example app or prototype, or actually, put my salary or, my entire pictures of my mother-in-law on my wedding photos and tell Copilot to remove her. How do I go about doing all of that? And it's something that Microsoft actually asked ourselves in that sense. And we built a framework around that. And a little bit of the secret sauce, when you see us rolling out all of those co-pilots for Windows and Office and everything, chances are we're actually doing it with semantic kernel. So this is a session that is going to complement what we've just had today on Azure, OpenAI, ChatGPT, and Copilot. So first, let's look at the sentiment right now. And we see the world going crazy. We see that some people say, it's good for humanity. Some people say it's pretty useless. And some people say it's bad for humanity or it's capable. And the sentiment, you're either in one of these camps. So if it's good for humanity and useless, it's really fun, but just a toy, entertaining, but no real use cases. Bad for humanity, statistical parrot, dangerous, and capable and good for humanity. It unlocks human potential. There are some useful applications. Then we have the naysayers also. AI will enslave us all. It amplifies fake news. AI will take our jobs. Human will become dumb. But I believe, and I've created a few apps with ChatGPT and Azure OpenAI, that it is going to be capable and good for humanity. And we're going to see a huge uptake in transformative generative model applications. There are some considerations, and this is really where I give you a reason to care about why you want to use OpenAI and when you want to use it, and then where does semantic kernel fit in. First of all, if you want to use OpenAI, Azure OpenAI or ChatGPT, you can use and you want to use a general purpose model that can handle multiple tasks. Then you would use OpenAI. If you want to generate human-like context while preserving data and privacy, you can use Azure OpenAI. You need rapid prototyping, quick time to market for many use cases. You want to use a model with little or no training, and you want to explore solutions. But all of those considerations require you to understand how to take your mindset and become a prompt engineer. And we realized that some developers and some people didn't want to do that. And also it suffers from a few shortcomings. So you can see there, it suffers from hallucinations. And we bettered that with GPT-4. But it's still kind of, if you ask it to do too much, it goes in and it pulls the information. And it can actually pull in incorrect or repetitive information. It has lack of real world grounding. So if you ask for it, what is the gold price for today? It will give it, but it will only do it via a connector with the Bing search connector, which I'm going to show you in the demo a little bit later on how to do. But it doesn't have real world grounding. Tier 1 languages work well. Now I want you to go in and ask it to please go program in Klingon. It will battle to do Klingon though, but Spanish, English, French, Israeli, Hebrew, a lot of those languages have been trained because we actually managed to do the training on that. So those work. Interpretability and predictability. Now, I did a session live for 1,500 people, and I said, please give me a dad joke. And I said, please give me another dad joke. It gave me the same dad joke over and over again, and then only slightly it would change with that. And it kind of upset me because I couldn't interpret or predict what it was going to do. And it has high variance on novel inputs. Remember that dad joke? If I ask it for a dad joke, it might say, here's something, and sometimes I don't find that funny. And then finally, you want to use the Microsoft version of Azure OpenAI because we also lock it down quite substantially with ethical AI. We have hundreds of ethical programmer managers that go in there, look at the model, and reverse engineer it to see how can we train that AI to better adhere to the responsible AI practices of Microsoft. So I have a solution for you. You want to build with common tools and avoid future technical debt. So the semantic kernel, instead of shipping once-off iffy GPT functions, you can take a paved path for GPT deploys. What a paved path means is that you can plan ahead with the skills and the prompts you're going to use, similar to a workflow, and then get a proper application flow working. If you want to solve problems just with prompts, that's great. Go with OpenAI and ChatGPT. But what happens if I want to mix prompts with native code? You like C#, Python, TypeScript, and Java's coming up with it also. You want to mix the code. I'm going to show you in the demo how to do that. You can with semantic kernel. If you struggle to build prompt context, you want to get vector memory, embeddings, and I'm going to show you how to do that also. The biggest problem that we've had recently with Azure OpenAI is give the ability to take in more context. So as you progress past the 32K for GPT-4 and you start to read books and books worth of prompt context, you battle because the actual mind, the brain of the tool can't understand what you're going to do. Instead of build prompt orchestration yourself, using an emerging common approach. And that is called goal-orientated programming. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that though. So you have to tell it what your goal is. Then you go in and create the plan instead of making prompt libraries for your own. And we've tested this. We have a library of prompt libraries, some pages long. You can access stock ready to go prompts. So this is the design thinking in the large language model era. You start with summarize your customer support or field logs, and you emphasize, this process is taking too long. As a customer, I would like to actually understand how I can do a certain role with that process. Then you define the common problems, and you start looking at your prompts. You generate the possible solutions with Ideate. Then you prototype with visualizing solution journeys and examples, and then you test with simulating the customer reaction. And this is actually from the Stanford School of Design Thinking. So let's look at emphasize. So you want to envision enhanced experiences, reimagine your process from scratch, and imagine your ideal outcomes with unlimited potential. Imagine if someone gave you the unlimited resources to achieve something. And we've seen that recently when they scan the human brain and realize, wait a second, we can define dreams now via going with that. You want to emphasize, you want to look at your customers, and then after that, you want to define. So over here, we've looked at our customers. I worked at a company that is trying to solve XYZ. I need to help with to come up with some use cases for X type of user trying to accomplish X type of results. So you define that is your goal, not a prompt. Understand that is your goal. And I'm going to show you how to actually go in and inject that, and then also look at how to chain the prompts. Now you're going to develop your functions, and these are called skills. So Azure Functions, we inherited some of the incredible frameworks that they're using, and we put in the prompts, and now you can run them separately and debug them. You want to begin by crafting plain language semantic functions. You want to consider beneficial additions, APIs, or systems. I'm going to show you how to add Bing into this so you can do a Bing search. And then you want to contemplate user context or memories for an enhanced experience. And this is ideate. So you've got the idea there, and now you can start connecting everything. And then finally, you want to prototype. And we have the semantic kernel prototyping tools, and we have all of those samples there. So you can use the samples for local API service to host the kernel. For prototyping, you can also use the same local service for your own app. And then also you can deploy the semantic kernel as an Azure function. Semantic kernel is just a little app that we run to be able to handle goal-oriented programming. And then it goes in and sees, I've deployed a skill, and goes and reuses that skill. If you want to do connectors like Bing or Cosmos DB, then you can also through that. So let's look at putting everything together and how this works underneath the hood. So it all starts with the user's ask. So we already saw there, and you give the problem statement. Once you have that, you've got the steps, and it will go and pick those steps out for you. You don't have to worry about use this step at that such a time. It understands enough to go in and say, choose that prompt after that prompt, and take away that hassle. We've literally built something higher level above prompts. After that, you might want to go in and connect to a context of the memories. So you want to gather the skills from the planner. Then memories are your embeddings, and you want to go gather context. You might want to read a book or gather information. You want to connect to data and data APIs. So you might want to connect to Cosmos DB or a SQL database and pull in that information. And then finally, you're going to run the steps in the pipeline, and it's going to result in new productivity. So this is a developer's approach to using all of these new technologies in a common type of paradigm that we're familiar with, goal-orientated development. So let's look at a demo. So I've got 18 minutes, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to get started with this. Let me get out of PowerPoint. And now let's just go and close that there. Let me start from the beginning. And I'm going to open up the, let's go into here. No, let's go there. Okay, I'm going to open up the project here, the semantic kernel. So it's microsoft.com/semantic-kernel. And it's got all of your samples in here, you can see there. And it also has a nice little kernel that you can run. So I'm going to start my kernel here. And you can see there, I've already got it started. And you just go func start, and it will start your planner and everything running in the background. Also, all of your samples that you're going to run, you're going to want to run this here. So now I've got my kernel running. And now I want to go in and look at what kind of tooling do I get as part of my development process. So let's look at some of the tooling here. So I've got the extension added here, the semantic kernel Visual Studio extension. And it's saying to me, wow, you've got so many nice functions here. You've got the AI endpoint. Now I'm using OpenAI because we, as a Microsoft staff, have been asked to actually give you all of the Azure OpenAI. So I'm going to just use OpenAI, which is our sister company. And then you can also use Azure OpenAI. You can see all of the AI endpoints here. You've got the functions, and then you also have a results screen, and you also have plans. So let's look at some of the skills here. Let's run them. And then after that, let's look at how you can use that with the plan. So let's look at the, and I want to go writer skills here. And I want to go for the short poem, because I'm going to take the poem and then add it to a planner over there. So I've got generate a short, funny poem or limerick to explain the given event. Be creative and funny. Let your imagination run wild. Some of these skills, we actually go a little bit more into detail. So if you go into like the rewrite one here, let's go novel chapter. So you can see there, and we've tested this against GPT-3 and GPT-4, and they're way less prone to hallucinations. So let's go back to the short poem here. Let's right click, and we're going to go debug function. It's going to say, okay, give me an input. It's going to connect to OpenAI. And I want to say, okay, what kind of poem I want to do? And I want to do a poem on dogs. I'm going to run there, write a short poem or limerick to explain the given context. Be creative and funny. Let your imagination run wild. And it's going to come back to it with dogs. And it's going to say, okay, what did I do here? And it gave me a poem. There was a dog in a park who decided to quite a lot. They barked and played in the sun, and they all laid, and now they howled at the moon after dark. That's great. But I'm South African, so I want to actually go in and translate this. Now I need a planner. And if I executed this, I would have to take everything in, create vector memory and all of that. So I just want to go into my planner here. Let's go into SK. I'm going to do this from the start. I do have a background here. I'm going to go plus, add a function. I'm going to say, okay, cool. You can use that folder. Now, which skills do you want? So first skill I want to do is poem. No, I want the writer skill. Sorry, I remember. So I want the writer skill because we looked at that was under poem. And I also want the, where is the translation? The translation. Okay, so writer skill has both. So we're going to go, okay. And I'm going to give it a plan name. And I'm going to call this translate poem. Yeah, so, and then what is the goal? So what am I trying to achieve here? This is where it understands how to actually go in and stitch all of those plans together. So the goal is create a poem on dogs and translate. Let's go into, and we want to go Spanish. Spanish is an easy language. Okay, now hit enter. Now it's going to go in and create that. Obviously, this is a live demo with a lot of people, so I guarantee, I promise nothing. Let's just see. There's my translate poem. Now, create a poem on dogs and translate into Spanish. Now I'm going to execute my plan. Notice I didn't actually even tell it what to do and which skills to do. It is clever enough to go in and do that. So we're going to execute the plan. When you go and see the output, it is actually going to go in the plan steps. Oh, look at that. It found write a skill, the short poem, turn a scenario into a short and entertaining poem. So it already knew what to do and how to align it, though. And this solves a lot of problems of calling any number of skills that aren't well defined and trying to daisy chain them through that, though. So here's our short poem. We want to do the translate. And here, I don't speak Spanish, though, but I'm kind of guessing that this is a poem here. And I can't, I'm not even going to do that. But that solves a lot of the problems around what are we experiencing around that. But I did promise you that you can write normal code with this. So I'm going to go out of here. And now I'm going to show you how to program all of that. So I'm going to open my recent. And now I'm going to go into the semantic syntax examples. Remember, this is still in the repository of semantic kernel. And I've got a few syntax examples I want to go through with you. So the two that I want to show you, and there's a whole lot here. I could spend the whole day on it. And on LinkedIn Learning, we actually have a free semantic kernel course you can access. And I'll give you the link a little bit later here. But the two that I want to show you, which really sparked my interest, is one, connect to Bing, connect to a connector. And two, we're going to look at how to actually inline functions. So we're going to look at how to mix prompts and language. And then finally, we're going to do memories. So with Bing's skill connector, you'll see there, let's just go and find that there. I actually run, so let's just minimize that there. I've got my Bing API key, which you can go in there. This is the Bing service. And then I go, okay, cool. Load the skills. And then what is the tallest building in South Africa? So this is going to actually load in you can see there, a text skill. It's going to put it into uppercase, and then it's going to call the search skill. So that's the first little demo. And you can see there how connectors work. All I have to do is import the Bing connector. The second example here is I want to run this with an inline function. And in this, I actually mix code. You can see here with C# code, I go, here's my function definition, and I'm going to go create a creative reason for not actually being at work. And it's going to create the function, and then it's going to mix it with the function, and then it's going to invoke it asynchronously. And finally, I'm going to go use the embeddings. So let's go here with memories. I'm going to go and call, okay, here's a GitHub repo. I'm going to take the entire repo. I'm going to go strip it from all of those markdown files. And then I'm going to go in and add that. Let's go into here, into my kernel memory. And this kernel memory actually uses the embeddings. So the OpenAI embeddings to go in it. So let's run this quickly and let's go see what this does here. So you can just go to run, and you can go through those examples, the rest of the examples. But this is important. This is connectors and Bing search. You can run this as you plan. And then I'm going to show you an example that takes all of that together. And then finally, you can embed programming into that with variables. And then also you can put this into memory. Let's see what we did here. So let's go back into the top here. And let's see. Okay, the first one is the Bing service connector. What is the tallest building in South Africa? And it says done. The Carlton Center is the tallest building in Africa. And that was using the Bing service connector and the Bing API. Next, we want to see an inline function definition. And that actually ran, and it gave me a nice excuse to not be at work. I was abducted by aliens and they wouldn't let me use my phone. That's using C# code to actually speak to prompts, and you can interoperate with skills. And then finally, I'm going to add some GitHub file URLs in the description to semantic volatile memory, so embeddings. And I'm going to build part of the brain of GPT and extend it with the information I've given it. So it's going to save all the URLs. And let's go, how do I get started? And then I've created my own bot, my own clever little bot around semantic kernels. So how does this all now fit into a nice end-to-end example? So let's go in and open up the chat summary web app React. And in here, it is going to go in. Let's just go and close that here. It's going to go in and do a chat summary and use the planner to go in and daisy chain everything via the tools that I showed you here. So you can just go into here. I've got my kernel running here, and you can just go yarn start. You do need to give it an OpenAPI key, which I'm going to show you how to do that now. So, okay, let's go into here. And here's my simple chat summary app. And I'm going to add my OpenAI API key here. And I also want to do a completion model. So I want to tell it, okay, cool. Please put in text DaVinci 003. Now, it's going to use summarize, action items, and topics. And the planner to go summarize. Then from that summary, then afterwards, do action items. And then after that action items, give me a topic. So it's doing a chat window here. And it's saying, hey, everyone, I want to buy a new car. Any recommendations? Yes, I'm thinking about the Toyota Prius or the Honda Civic. Or no, he says 911. What about something more eco-friendly? And he goes through, I want to buy an electric car. He also asks for some information about a holiday he wants planning on Antarctica. You can also go here. Let's add something here. I need to dye. I don't think I know it's about dye my hair black. What can I use? And then you want to go get the AI summary. Now it's going to go in and run planner. And you can see this is much more similar. Let's go in here. This is much more similar to the typical app. Ooh, I lost there for a second. And we want to go to the simple chat summary. There we go. The conversation between I and John Doe focused on cars and birds. John Doe recommended the Porsche 911, Honda Civic, and Toyota Prius as car options, and I discussed the advantage of electric car. He also suggested going bird watching next weekend, and I recommend looking up lyrebirds online to the impressive mimic abilities. Okay, it didn't really want me to dye my hair. I think that I actually just put it in the wrong window, or I didn't hit enter. But the action items: go to the Nissan dealer this weekend, book an Antarctic trip, and then go bird watching. And then you can actually click through on summarize action items or topics here. So that's everything that I wanted to show you with that end-to-end demo. And you can see how easy it is to actually get started with semantic kernel around some common programming tasks. So let's just close that here, terminate batch jobs. And now I want to give you the call to action. Let's go from current slide here. And now I've got my demo done, and we can go in and look at how you can get started. So of course, we are in the digital revolution, and I've got a nice QR code for you. So you can scan me, and then you can go to http://semantic-kernel, and that'll give you the LinkedIn Learning, all of the repos that I mentioned there, how to get started. You can use OpenAI or Azure OpenAI, and there are 17 samples that you can use on syntax and end-to-end samples. You can create right now, today, a bot that goes into a GitHub repo and gives you a ChatGPT bot around answering questions on your repo. So let's take some questions here, and let's hopefully give you a avenue to really create goal-orientated programming solutions.
Thank you so much, Rory. So it was like a great finish for what you said, because you asked the people to specific and special place, because there was a question where we can find all the resources, like a compilation for all of the references. So thanks for preparing this, and like we have already the answer to it. We have, I see, like 2 specific questions regarding to your session. So let me maybe show the first one. And how does semantic kernel relate to the Microsoft guidance library?
I'm assuming that they means responsible AI around guidance library. So understand the prompts. The prompts themselves still use OpenAI or Azure OpenAI, and that we've engaged with both OpenAI and our responsible AI team to make sure we bring you the best as part of responsible AI. We are trusted. Microsoft runs on trust. So you can go to responsible AI. We have let me get that for you, responsible AI, the responsible AI principles here. And you can go in and you can see, and we have use cases, and obviously also how can you build responsible AI solutions here? The management tools, the policies, the guidelines, and the communication. And semantic kernel is made by Microsoft Research, the same team that created these responsible AI principles.
Sure, thank you. The second question is, are connectors comparable to plugins in ChatGPT? Can we create our own?
Yes, definitely you can create your own. Connectors are anything that implement an interface. It's a programming concept. So if you have something like a backend relational database, let's say Cosmos DB, SQL, Oracle, you can create a connector for that if one doesn't already exist, and then run it to go and use your inline functions with your programming code to go and execute your flows.
And I think the last question, at least from what I see right now, maybe there will be more. If you would like to add some additional questions, please put in the chat. But the last question I'm seeing right now is, what are main advantages of semantic kernel versus LangChain?
That's very clever. And they are competing products in that sense, though. But semantic kernel is more aligned to the goal-orientated programming paradigm, which is, and if you saw what I did with Planner, you built everything and then you sent it there, and you give semantic kernel a little bit of leeway to go in and refine the skills. Also, those skills that you have there, those prompt libraries, we've tested, Microsoft has tested with Microsoft Research to kind of lessen some of the nuances that we've experienced with GPT-4 and GPT-3. So you can kind of be guarantee if I have a prompt in a prompt library, it won't actually succumb to certain of those nuances, though. But definitely go in, look at LangChain, look at semantic kernel. These are all very much on the top of the hype cycle, and we're going to be refining them as we progress.
Thank you. So I think, Rory, these are the all questions which were, on your topic, and I think, just before I have one more. So give me a sec. Yeah. So there's one more question. Is this semantic AI a recommended way to run queries and ask questions over large enterprise documents?
Yes, basically, yes. I didn't want to use the word enterprise, but if you're going to use large enterprises that you need guarantee of interoperability and predictability, and also to integrate with your existing programming structures, definitely semantic kernel is our preferred architecture.
Got it. Thank you. Maybe in the meantime, there will be some maybe additional question. We still have a moment to it. There were also few questions related to something like I'm showing you right now. What is the best way to learn something? It was mainly on the Copilot. So the answer I prepared was use the Microsoft Learn platform. There's a tons of great content there for you available for free. So whenever you have any to learn something new, go to learn.microsoft.com and just search for the for specific topic for GitHub Copilots.
We also have a Visual Studio Code Copilot series that I've published a few videos on that takes you from zero to hero on all of the languages, Java, .NET, Markdown, TypeScript, and then take you on a very gentle mechanism to actually go in and learn that, though. So I'm not floating my own boat, but you can go into the Visual Studio Code playlist and you can see there. I just published one today.
It's great. It's great. So all of the content which is helping people to learn something new. It's great. So thanks also, Rory, for sharing this. And yes, friends, come to Rory also for this. I think we are all with all of the questions and of course with all of the topics. So from from our side, thank you so much for this 1.5 hour being with us, listening to those sometimes crazy topics, probably that we never thought about it 5 years ago, but it's coming into reality. We are trying to help you understand this and show you what's inside it. Thank you for being with us. Look for the another episodes of the Microsoft AI show. I think if I have it, just give me a sec. Yeah, I think I have it. So if you want to scan the QR code, it should put you to the Reactor website. Then you can find the series of Microsoft AI show, and then you can see what will be the next session about it. And if I have this moment, I think, yeah, I have a slide for this. So we have upcoming things like model fine-tunings for gaming and OpenAI, democratizing AI through Power Apps, and cognitive services. These are for you. Please register for those. And thank you for being with us for the last 1.5 hour. Thank you so much. And yes, there's a question on the provide the link for that. Here is the QR code to register for the series. It will be the easier to catch it up with your phone, and then you will get to the site. Thank you also for all the comments which are showing up right now. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, everyone. See you in the next series next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.